If you want successful loot runs in Modern Warfare Zombies with loot like this, then all you need is this video today. After spending a long time in Zombies, I think I found the perfect method to guarantee excellent loot, and this method doesn't rely on any bugs or exploits, it doesn't rely on any duplication glitches, and you'll be able to do this whenever you want while solo without relying on any of those bugs or exploits. This is once again the best method I've found so far. It guarantees really high loot yield returns for very little in the way of risk. To do this method, you're going to need a few items. The first is a combat knife, and the reason for this is that whilst you have a knife out, you actually run faster than tier 3 zombies, which is very helpful. You also need a weapon of your choice, which you won't really be using in the tier 3 zones. You'll be using this as an initial way of farming plates off of tier 1 zombies. You'll also need a decoy grenade and throwing knives. Decoy grenades are excellent distractions and work similar to the monkey bomb, and throwing knives guarantee a one-shot kill on any given tier 3 zombie or hellhound, and a two-shot kill on any of the armored zombies, and you can have 6 of these in your inventory with 3 on hand at any given time. You also want the Aether Shroud field upgrade, which allows you to turn invisible if you end up in a sticky situation in tier 3 and need to escape very quickly. I would highly recommend you do this with at least a 2-plate vest, but a 3-plate vest is definitely optimal. If you have a 2-plate though, you can definitely find 3-plate vests in the tier 3 zones. And if you have a self-revive, I think you really should use this for this method. But if you don't have one, you'll just have to be very careful in the initial drop-in, or consider buying one off of a buy station. And finally, you want an uncommon Aether tool, which is the green or blue Aether tool that you can apply to any weapon of your choice. And this is useful later to give you guaranteed free loot that ends up being extremely rare in Call of Duty. The method works extremely easily, and it doesn't really rely on any exploits or bugs. You just simply have to cheese a few things when you can. But ultimately, it's distraction based, and it's simply down to the fact that a throwing knife and combat knife is the perfect combination. The combat knife makes it physically impossible for anything except for a hellhound to catch up to you, and the throwing knives allow you to one-shot pretty much anything in tier 3, meaning that you don't need tier 3 pack-a-punch weapons, and you can basically just run around with a knife. What you want to do is drop in on the southwest side of the tier 3 zone, and the reason for this is because this area in particular allows you to move across rooftops and doesn't need you to go on the ground. You kind of want to avoid the floor as much as humanly possible here and treat it as kind of a floor is lava situation. On these rooftops on the southwest side, you're looking primarily for a few things. Specifically, you want to try and find another self-revive because that's very helpful, and having 2 or 3 self-revives basically means you can do this method for as long as you humanly want with very little downside. If you go down, you self yourself, you get about 10 to 15 seconds to run away off of a self-revive, you equip the other self-revive, you carry on with your day. The next thing you're going to want to look for is turret modules, and it doesn't matter if they have a specific ammunition type, but any kind of turret module will allow you to complete quests in tier 3 zones such as bounty contracts, which I'll show you in a little bit, and this is guaranteed tier 3 loot. So look for self-revives and look for turret modules, but on the other side of things, you can find pretty much any kind of rare loot in all of these crates, all of these chests, and even the normal things to loot. Now, primarily, the boxes with Aether crystals stuck to them tend to have the rarest loot in tier 3, but you can find rare loot in nearly anything inside this zone, so search absolutely everything. I've even found rare Aether tools inside jacket pockets. If you happen to have the Death Perception perk before you go into the game, I would highly recommend equipping this or using it on one of these runs, because it will allow you to identify loot through walls. So you're going to work your way around these rooftops and try and stay above ground as much as humanly possible to find as much loot as possible. But once you've found yourself a turret module, you can guarantee yourself tier 3 loot by picking up a bounty contract. When you pick up the bounty contract, check to see if the bounty has spawned somewhere near a turret module, and these turrets are marked all over the map and you can use any given one of them at any given time. If the bounty has spawned away from a turret module, just simply cancel the contract and look for another bounty when it happens to spawn. But if you get one that's near a turret module, head over to the bounty contract, activate the turret, which will last about 2 minutes, and then aggro the actual bounty itself and force it to run towards the turret. The turret will kill pretty much anything in fractions of a second, including the bosses, including the bounties, and it's extremely overpowered, and this will guarantee you a reward drop with high tier 3 loot. So on top of effectively looting pretty much everything in the area by staying above ground and using a knife, you can then combine that by completing these bounty contracts whenever you find reliable turret modules. So you'll be searching your regular crystallized crates and normal item drops, and you'll get lots and lots of loot from that, and then on top of that you can do these turret missions. There's some very simple keys to success with this method, and the idea is strictly to stay away from as many zombies as possible. You are not looking to fight these zombies, there is no benefit to doing that. You're trying to avoid them as much as possible by staying on roofs, using decoy grenades to distract them when you get in a tough spot, and using zip lines, both horizontal and vertical, to stop the zombies from aggroing. Because if you happen to move a far distance away in a short period of time, the zombies end up despawning or decide to stop following you. There is also a cluster of horizontal zip lines on the southwesternmost part of the tier 3 zone that allows you to move from rooftop to rooftop, and in doing so, forces the zombies in that area to stop aggroing and effectively despawn. And if you do end up engaging some zombies, which you inevitably will, the one-shot throwing knife is your best friend, or two-shot on both light and heavy armored zombies, and you can use ammo caches to replenish any knives you happen to lose, but for the most part, you can just pick these things back up. In the tier 3 loot zones, you'll also find the monkey bomb fairly actively, and you'll also find the grenade that basically spawns a gigantic magnetic orb and eats anything in its path. And really that's all you need to do. You can keep rinsing and repeating bounty contracts and turret modules, and keep looting around the area. And the really beneficial thing about this method is that most people don't go into tier 3 until they've got at least one weapon to tier 2 Pack-a-Punch, which tends to take a lot of time. With this method, as soon as you've got plenty of plates, you can go in straight away, meaning that all of those crystal boxes and all of the rare loot drops will pretty much be yours and yours alone, because very few people are going to be going into that tier of circle. If you find yourself moving around and you get into a situation where you've got too many zombies following you or an elite zombie following you, use a decoy grenade, use a zipline, use a monkey bomb, or even use your Aether Shroud to get away. And of course, at the worst case scenario, a self-revive is a guaranteed way to get you back up into the game and guarantee that your loot will be safe. And if you can find 2 or 3 of those, which is fairly easy to do in the tier 3 zones, you're pretty much guaranteed to use as much time as you want in tier 3 looting for as long as you want, with very little risk to your own character, so long as you use the strategies that I've given you. When you've decided that your time is up in the tier 3 zones, you can head to this graveyard, specifically here on the map. And like I said before, you want to bring in a green Aether tool. Now on your gun or knife, whichever you've decided to make green rarity, you can then basically press F or square to pay respects to this grave, and it's going to spit out a random guaranteed tier 3 reward. I've only done this once so far, and you can do it every single time you go in, and I managed to get a tier 2 Pack-a-Punch crystal from this thing, which is pretty insane. Just be warned though that this will take away the rarity of your weapon and any equipped Pack-a-Punches if you have any of them on at the time. So it's best to use a weapon with no Pack-a-Punch that's simply got green rarity. It doesn't matter how high you've gotten your thing Pack-a-Punched or what rarity your weapon is, it's a fully randomized process that is guaranteed to take away what you have on it. So every time you do this method, if you don't end up getting bounty contracts and turret modules going together, you've at least guaranteed some kind of loot from this little Easter egg. And that's it. That is all you need to do to guarantee yourself tier 3 loot. You then just have to make your way to an exfil chopper with what you've managed to receive and extract. And boom, you've managed to stockpile huge amounts of loot for your stash that are useful in future runs. At the end of this video, I'm going to leave a link to a live stream where I did pretty much this for the first 2 hours if you're interested in seeing what that looks like in an extended format, so make sure to check that out. Please do drop a like, please do subscribe, we'll have lots more Warzone and zombies related content here on the channel, and as always, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.